Rawr!
angry about cats.
When did we all get this dumb? Almost only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and nuclear warfare. I don't see any bodies, so it doesn't count.
I'm angry about cats.
I'm the chef. I want to hear one thing. Yes, chef. Come on, man. Use your brain. The Why I'm Angry podcast starts now. All right, everything moves slow today. That is what today is. It's everything moves slow day. This is the Why I'm Angry podcast. Yeah. This is the chef. I am here in the Freestyle Man Cave studio, in lovely Ohio. So we are, or I guess I'm coming on here live tonight by myself. I'm kind of a little behind here. Just spilled my root beer as I was hitting the button to go live. If you are on anything or on X or anything, we can't go live on X right now, so we do put a link on X so that you can get to our podcast live. We go live on Wednesdays at 5 if you're just, or Wednesdays at 8 if you're just getting on here for the first time. Or if you're just getting on our podcast for the first time, and this is the first time you're hearing our podcast, we appreciate you getting on. The little ads that you have to listen to, I apologize for, but we do need to make a couple bucks, and honestly, right at this point, that's about what we make out of those. Every month we make about $1.25. If you want to help us get a few more bucks, you can get our exclusive kind of podcast, get our little in between podcast where I get on and I'll say something or give a comment or reiterate something, or I'll talk about like the debates and stuff like that. I'll get on like the day after or that night or something like that, and just give my opinion what happened. Kind of dissect it in a way that's a little. It's still my opinion. It's news is always going to be an opinion, but at least dissect it in a way that you're seeing it through the normal person's eyes. You're seeing that there is you're not getting the spin for one side or the other. I'm going to tell you, if one side did terrible and it's the side that I normally follow, I'm going to tell you they did terrible. And if the other side did terrible, I'm just going to tell you they did terrible. And if they did great, I'm going to say chalk it up to a win for the bad guys, for the other guys. And honestly, I don't really have a side as much as I try to decide what's going on. And so get on there. We have a link on our Facebook page. I'm trying to get a link everywhere for that, but that's on Spreaker.com at Why I'm Angry Podcast Why I'm Angry Podcast. On Spreaker, they have a join, and that's $2 a month, and that helps us to honestly get some ads out, get more people on here. Get more guests, things of that nature. I'm working with getting Moggs back on here. He's always a really intelligent source of knowledge. Actually a doctor, a medical full-on doctor. So, probably one of the more intelligent people that we have on the podcast. Not, saying that anybody else is less intelligent, but, so get on. Whyimangry.com is down at the moment, and we do apologize for that. But we are working on the funding and things of that nature for that. So, your $2 a month would go towards something like that, helping out with getting us up and running again, getting the merch store back up and pushing, and all that good stuff. So if you'd like to buy merch, or if you want to help out beyond $2 a month or anything like that, email me at whyimangrypodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask about the show or what's going on, let me hit that button. But enter them in the comments. I get most of them come straight to me and right into the broadcasting studio here, especially the ones on Twitch and YouTube. Let's see. Looks like, we got Facebook going. For some reason, there it is. Facebook's always a little bit slower, but they always, they all come straight to me. The ones on Rumble, I can see, I just can't always see them. So if you do hit me up on Rumble, give me a second to respond and all of that. So I do shoot everyone from X to Rumble. It is kind of where we get the most following. So that's, that's where I'm at on that. Plus they do help with it. They do monetize our podcast so that we get a few more, dollars, and, every little bit helps. All right. There we go. So back into the meat and potatoes here. It has, like I said, just been a slow day of just like everybody getting on your nerves, getting in your way. Just some things like that. Let me get, so in the news, big news, from Israel, kind of depending on what you believe about Israel and what's going on. Oh, no, I'm the wrong one. Right, here it is. Somebody killed one of the Hamas leaders today. They took credit for one of the leaders being killed. One of the leaders being killed in Gaza, in Lebanon, I think it was, the other day, but they have not taken credit yet for the one that was killed in Beirut, last night. Top political leader outside of Gaza, Ishmael Haniyeh, probably killed his name, was killed in Tehran, according to separate statement from Iran and Hamas. Israel has not commented on it yet, and they still, at the time that I checked it, that was this morning, and they still hadn't commented this afternoon yet on it. They did say, I mean, Israel warned that there was going to be a high price paid if there was an attack like this. I mean, they've always, and I don't know that I've ever heard of Israel lying about an attack like this. That they were going to, that there was going to be anything but, force met with force. So when when you start to see high level Hamas leaders start to die, that this is, this is the retaliation. This is, all of that other stuff is to stop the war from happening later, keep their people safe, all of that. When they start killing when high level Hamas leaders die, and you're like, it could be Israel. This last one, they shot a rocket into the room and blew it up. He's dead. That's Israel. They could have probably shot a, sniper round in there, and he died. He would have died. Nobody would have known. Nobody would have had to say anything. But they blew up the room. They're sending a message. And they did it in Tehran. So there isn't like, obviously, they may not say that they were there and killed him. They may never admit 100% because they can't admit that they were on another sovereign country's property. They were operating their military or their Mossad or CIA, whatever they're calling it these days. But they can't say that they were on another country's, property, operating in another country's borders, without then saying that they didn't respect that country's borders to prosecute somebody that they wanted to prosecute. So if they were a known terrorist, then they couldn't operate in their borders. They would have to go to that country. I mean, that's the proper protocol, and they would have to go to that country, that country's leadership, and they would have to set up a meeting, set up extradition. They'd have to arrest the guy, all of that stuff. That's not the war that Israel's going to fight. They're fighting the war that they're fighting. The war that they're going to fight is they're going to establish a new Israeli state in Gaza. It'll be less Palestinian. Obviously some Palestinians will stay. and there will be a safer place for Israelis, and there will not be a chance, or there will be less of a chance that Hamas rises up again and kills thousands of their people. And so that's what they're doing here. That's the war. But all of this other stuff, I mean, you're starting to see top level Hamas leaders go down. That is um that's the retribution. Um so I mean that's and they, and honestly that's probably what Benjamin Netanyahu is best at, is the politics of, we killed your dude, but we're not going to say anything about it. And he's going to be the one that sits there in the room and doesn't flinch when they ask him, "Did you, are you committing war crimes? Good, bad, or indifferent, anti-Semitic, talk or whatever you want to do, you do. But this is the truth about how Israel operates, and we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, you should have known, and I think I even said you should, the second that the strike on Israel happened, that one day, it may not be today, may not be that day, but one day there's going to start to be strikes. It may be a one day thing where all of the leadership goes down, and it may be, individual as they get them. But don't think this is just going to be Hamas. The Houthis are going down. The, Hamas, Hezbollah is going to take it. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you see some top level Iranian diplomat or somebody take a shot too. Somebody that from Iran that's been funding it or knew about it or has been up in it is gonna take a fall too. And that's when it Iran has to really decide, do you want to take a shot? Do you want to actually start a war with Israel? Because from what I was looking at, it didn't look like they had very much standing in the area, because they already kind of wore out their welcome. So Jordan is upset with Israel, but they're still playing nice. Lebanon's not coming in because they don't have the military might to take on Israel. Iraq wants to kind of stay out, and kind of stay out of the fray a little bit. So I don't, Egypt's not gonna get in it. Syria's, they're dealing with their own uproar in their country, upheaval, and so I just don't see how it's going to play out well for Iran. And I think they're gonna have to end up, unless they really, unless before the end of his term, Uncle Joe gets all this money sent over to Iran, kind of like, the whole Barack Obama trying to send 98 million dollars or whatever he was trying to send in his last executive order to Iran. Unless that gets rolled out, it's Iran's future is based on who becomes president next. And we can kind of hold our breath about that with the open borders at the moment, with them being able to send whoever they want to our country, and that person probably can get a voter registration card in certain states that do not care whether you are an actual citizen of our country and pay your taxes and follow the laws and things of that nature. And they can probably get in and vote. A couple million votes. We can get a couple million votes out of them. And if you think that's crazy and far fetched, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, an old guy that they put in his basement so that he didn't continue to gab on and make mistakes was sitting, won the presidency and got more votes than a super popular Barack Obama. Now, maybe they didn't stuff hundreds of millions of ballots. Maybe they didn't. They worked really hard on organizing and just harvesting those votes legally and in all fairness. But I don't know. I don't know. But that kind of brings me to the next thing we're going to talk about is over the last few weeks. I mean, we're small potatoes, and I know that I can say some stupid stuff and rub people the wrong way. But we posted a post on Facebook. Let me work the interwebs here and show you what we posted because it got taken down. So let me hit the button. Okay. So if you're watching this live, we got hit for a false information, and we can hit the CY button, and the CY says independent fact checkers say this information has no basis in fact. You can choose whether to see it. The same false information was checked in another post by fact checkers. There may be small differences. See the fact check. And this is PolitiFact checked that 100 million ballots have not been pre-filled with wrong name. So I posted that post that is me watching the left realize the 100 million ballots they pre-filled now have the wrong name on them. And it's got what's his name, man? Leonardo DiCaprio on it, laughing. He's got that drink. It's 100% a meme. This is not news. This is not fake news. This is a joke. This is a meme. Yet we have to fact check memes now, so I posted that the shared a photo, independent fact checkers, and I've gotten in my feelings a little bit here, and it said if you thought this was news and this convinced you that the Democrats were cheating, I'm sorry. Or I'm not sorry. Sarcasm is so hard to figure out these days. It just when did we become so dumb? And I mean, if you haven't been on our Facebook page, we post all kinds of crazy things. There's a video from an Idaho farmer that him and his grandma and brothers post all the time. And this time they were posting about how the Green New Deal from Biden was not allowing them to, or had told them to shut down their water, to not water their crops over the summer. And it said that they were running out of water. The country was running out of water, and that they needed to do their part and conserve water. And they said that they were their water supply, their wells are higher than they've ever been, or at least than they've been in their lifetime. And I think she's like high 60s or something. Um, and with that being said, you know, so they make a joke about, they started a rebel farmers co-op. Um, get your t-shirts, whatever. Support them. And at the end of it, they turn on the water. And they even said in their podcast, get the facts, like, because they're not going to tell you that on TV. And so that's kind of what I'm here with this is like, you know, what if we're getting our facts off of dumb memes off of Facebook. Facebook isn't news. It's not a news organization. It's not where you go to get your news. Now, if someone posts a link to a news organization and you go to that for your news, that's whatever. If your news organization is lying to you, that's that's fake news. It, and that's where we should be fact checking. We shouldn't be fact checking memes. What if I went to somebody's Facebook page and put happy birthday? It's not their birthday. Well, that's not facts. Let's fact check it. Oh, it's not his birthday. Take it down. We got people wasting their time doing that. I mean, I got a little in my feelings today, and so I fact checked 3 or 4 people. If you're left leaning and you made memes against Christianity today that were false, and you're one of my friends, I'm sorry. I you know I hit you up with a fact check and reported you because as much as I normally just let it go and let you be whoever you are, and agree to disagree, and let you know who I am. I'm a Christian. That I believe in Christ with all my heart, and that all of that stuff. You know where I stand. And so, obviously, I'm not here to beat you down about, if, sins that you've committed, or sins that, or anything like that. I'm not here to judge, because that's not for me. I'm not allowed to do that. Bible says that 100%. And so, but at the same time, I'm tired of getting censored and shut down. And I'm tired of I'm tired of getting shut down and censored, and there's no catch on the other side. You can post any crappy lie you want about um Christianity or whatever, or even any other religion, except for Muslims. Don't say anything about Muhammad, cuz they're crazy. But you can say whatever you want about Christianity and lie all you want about it. But there's no, well, you should be loving. It says in your 10 commandments. No, it just says I can't kill you and I can't hate you. Well, I can still fight back a little bit. I can still live my life in my space, which is sad that Facebook has made me want to go back to MySpace, where you just throw a music on there, you do your thing, you a funny, cat meme or whatever, and you don't look at it as news. Plus, you had to go to the people's pages you know, so that you could actually, could see what they were doing. Their stupid crap didn't just normally pop up on your page. I mean, you can post something dumb like, "We let the Christian zealots run the world at one point. It was called the Dark Ages." No, we let a little bunch of nepotist kings run the world during the Dark Ages. There were some Christian crusades during that time that fought back Muslim rule. You're welcome. And maybe at some time, because they were fighting for that, people got too zealous and wanted the power, and that's not Christianity. That's people being human. That's people living in their flesh. That's people taking advantage of power. And that's not what Christianity is. The religious zealots killed Jesus. That's not Christianity. That's being a religious zealot. That's being beyond what you're actually supposed to be. So so like I said, I got in my feelings. I shut some people's Facebook posts down because they posted junk, and you know, I apologize if I shut your post down or got it fact checked or whatever. But it's honestly kind of I kind of got I got to check. So they've been talking about this comment that Trump made, saying that, and when I heard it, I thought they're going to jump on this, and if they don't jump on this, they're probably stupid, which we know probably the case in the long run anyway. But there's a comment that President Trump said about that all of these migrants are coming in and taking black and Hispanic jobs. Well, he could have gone one step farther and said they're also taking, first time kids, younger people, minors jobs from their first time, people that should be doing dishes and things like that. They could, and working for lawn care, all of these jobs that a lot of times pay in cash under the table that these migrants can get without having a green card or a social security number or, until they can get those at the, Mexican restaurant in the back table, that's, they take those jobs and they do. They take all of everybody's jobs. And so, the problem is that we're not getting our youth these jobs. We're not getting people who need to work a part-time job or need to get a side hustle or need just a few hours or need, you know, a menial job. Right now, because my wife is makes a decent amount of a decent wage, and I can take care of our daughter, but to cover some of the side expenses, I need to take a a menial job, something that doesn't really make any difference in the grand scheme of things, and I don't have to think about it too much, and I can work a couple hours a week or so and make okay money on it and just, cover some of the bills, like, honestly, are streaming, the streaming TV or the internet, or I try to cover I cover the podcast expenses because podcasting isn't free. And if you want to help out, you know, you can get on our link here and help us out. But and I'll put that link in our comments. Just shameful plug. But, you know, beyond that they are taking our job. They are taking jobs. And I watched on ABC News today. Cancel. Copy link. I watched on ABC News today a couple of the reporters talking about how just disrespectful and how racist it was. And okay, he did only mention those races, but he was talking about how he was at a black writers association meeting. They invited him to come and talk to them, and he was there talking about that subject. They came out and asked him that right off the bat. Obviously he's not going to shut it down and walk out on the first question. And then they get the optics of him being an angry whatever. But his answer is that that his answer is that if you're just a second here. His answer is that if illegal people are taking jobs from anybody, it's not great. If they're taking jobs from one person, then they're taking jobs that one person in the US who's here, who is, whether they fought in the military or anything else, has fought to be here. They're alive, they've survived, anything else in life, and they're here. Whether you consider it you won the lottery for being born in the US, which you're blessed to be here, but at the same point, you're here and you were here legally. Now, if 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 you came here illegally and you fought to become legal, well, good on you. I you know I applaud you finally getting to, going through the rigmarole it takes to become a naturalized citizen. So, it's just one of those deals where it's what they're saying, and it's how you it's how that it works. You catch him in talking about the people who are there, catch him in talking to the, you guys, and then you can say, oh, he literally just talked down to the black people because he said, you guys should be upset because they're taking your jobs. Well, yeah, I'm pissed off that they're taking our jobs. And, if you're not upset that they're taking our jobs or your jobs, then, maybe you should start questioning your patriotism a little bit because you're not, uh, you're not worried about this country. There needs to be some if you want to raise the wages, don't raise the wages with a fake high minimum wage. Just the best way to do it is to The best way to do it is just I is to have too many jobs. Too many jobs available. So people start raising their rates. So they get people from other companies or they get people instead of going to other companies. I mean, that's economics 101. If you can't get people, it's because you're paying too little or your compensation package, the whole package is too small, or you're just a bunch of idiots and you've got a bad reputation for being just a bunch of idiots. One of the companies around here, Fuyao, just got raided by Homeland Security for acting like a bunch of idiots, for working their people too hard. I mean, they're working them like Japanese workers. And if you're not part of the Japanese worker group, they're treating you worse than that. Because I don't know if you know how Asian culture works. If you're not the Asian culture that's in charge, you're the Asian culture that's being moved to slavery. Now you can fact check that if you want, but the Asians are the biggest minority group or ethnicity in slavery as of today. What? In America, we would have thought it was the African Americans or Africans that are the biggest group of slaves in the world. Nah, not even close. Not even. I mean, just the only people who take Africans slaves anymore is Africans. Mind blown. Fact check. Get on there and check your facts. Asians are the top tier. They will take other Asians as slaves in a second. And we, as a world, as a country, as that is a big world player, we've started wars over countries who take other groups and make them slaves, who use genocide, and it just we're not standing up. And why? Because we're too worried about the fact that we can't kill our own babies. We're too worried about the fact that we want 200 million people to 20 million people to enter our country illegally so that we can get the votes we want. We're too worried as a country to keep our job as a congressperson without doing anything that actually helps the country, to keep the power that we won't do anything that upsets anybody. We're too worried as a country that people will see what's going on and stand up against it. That the news organizations as a country, as politicians, they pay billions of dollars in contracts and speakings and just having the ear, being able to get exclusivity to these guys and sound bites and stuff like that, that they don't even fact check before they post their sound bites, but they get paid to just shut up and not report the actual news. They don't report the Asian slave issue. They don't report that our population of people are being sold into slavery and they're being taken in sex trafficking. They don't report that that has become a huge industry. The Epstein's Island was nothing. It didn't even cause a ripple in the industry. Yep. But we're going to report that JD Vance said some things about Trump that he won't take back 30 years ago, 20 years ago. I don't know how many years ago. He doesn't seem that old, so it's got to be only like 20 or 10 or 15 years ago. I think he's only 46 or something like that. And Trump really has only been in the political scene for the last, like 8 years, 10 years, maybe a couple more years than that. And so, but we whine. I mean, like, who cares? Anybody on the conservative side that's voting for Trump and JD Vance don't care that he didn't like Trump as a candidate. No one cares. Like I said, there's something that I can't put my finger on it about him, and maybe it will and maybe it won't come out. And whatever, but that's not it. I don't care if you didn't like Trump. Personally, Trump isn't my favorite person either. Honestly, he's not conservative enough for me. He doesn't follow the Constitution quite tight enough for me. But in this time, he gets the job done because he's not bought and paid for. If he can get the Congresses, and the Congress can actually decides to do something, because it doesn't help to have the Republican side anymore. I'm going to be optimistic, even though today has not been an optimistic day. I'm going to be optimistic and say about 3/4, maybe 2/3, are still fighting for the good of the country. At least they're trying to work hard enough to keep their jobs fairly and get the votes that they need to keep their jobs. But I'm also going to say that I I don't think that it matters anymore. There's a big enough group of Republicans that are bought and paid for, that are working the other side, that are not doing what's best for the country. And they're they're just not doing what's best for the country. And so we're, we're we're sitting here and and we're wondering what we can do. So we, that's why the name of the podcast today is the name of the podcast today is that we need we need to look and see. We need to see that Facebook is not a news organization, and when they start to censor you because you post a comical meme, then you realize that you can't even be a comedian. You can't, because comedians are just observing things and then satiring it into, Mark Twain would have been censored. And in that censorship, you don't have a voice. You are powerless because right now Facebook, they can censor anything they want because they are a private organization. And because they're a private organization, they don't have to abide by First Amendment rules. And unfortunately, because the country doesn't have an open public, you know, forum that the country wants to run or whatever, and not unfortunately, but not unfortunately, but honestly, there isn't a public forum online. You can go online, you can post something, and they can they can censor you there too. The only place you have the ability to actually control what you say is in your pillow at night. You go out front, you say something that somebody gets offended about, and they call it hate speech, and the police can come and take you away. I have George Carlin did hate both sides. You're right. And I have a truck. It's a 1990 Ford Ranger. You can draw your conclusions from that it's probably not the nicest truck, but it hauls trash. It fights against the weeds in my yard. It hauls anything I need it to haul. And I don't need a giant truck. I enjoy driving it. And so I had it parked out of the way for Christmas lights. And I hadn't really moved it since because I need to put a new alternator in it. And honestly, um, until the podcast gets moving, until my gig job makes has more gigs and stuff like that, I don't have the money to fix it. And so I parked it in that I left it in that bush. And the bushes kind of grew up around the back end. It's still movable, honestly, because somebody called the police on me, and I had a sheriff pull up to my house and tell me I had to move my truck or they would tow it. In America, you can't park a truck. And he told me that right. He I make sure that my truck has no electronics so they can't shut me down. But anyhow, they in America, they can call they will not allow you to park a junk vehicle on the street because it hurts property values. So, in the name of property values not being too low, I charged up the truck and I made sure that everybody in the neighborhood heard my truck pull 45 feet up the street and park up the street in front of my house, so that you know so I had done my civic duty, and property values are back to what they are supposed to be, and they are safe. And whatever. So and honestly, I don't. So honestly, I mean, I don't care that it's that it's about property values or whatever. That's, it can be whatever it's about. But when it comes to somebody telling you you have to do something, or somebody telling you that you can't do something with a property that, I purchased this property. I own this property. I'm not renting this property. I don't, other than I said the other day, you're not, if you own your home, you don't own your home. Even if you own your home outright from the bank and everything, you still leasing your home. You're still on a lifetime lease of your house that you may be able to transfer to your kids someday or whatever, but the actual property is owned by the government. And if you don't believe that that's what they see, then look at eminent domain. Look at, you know, anybody that, lives next to the highway, where they just keep encroaching out more, adding more and more lanes, taking more and more easements. You know, you lease your land from the government because you live in this country. Now, some countries, you know, I don't know right off the top of my head, but I do know some island nations, you can own your property and they can't, they cannot they can't be on your property if you call them off. There's other countries where, they'll come in, knock your door down, shoot you on the spot and take your property. But sorry, dealing with issue. So anyhow, like I said, you don't own your property. You don't own that, anything. And so if you think that you have freedom until you start standing up for it anymore, they've chipped and chipped and chipped and chipped away at it. And it is slipping. And right now, it's time. I don't know if it's too late because I don't know what they can do about winning this election. And honestly, I care about who becomes president, but I don't care as much about who becomes president as that we need to start voting out some of these old cronies in Congress. I don't, either side. Honestly, they both need to go. Some of these guys, Mitch McConnell, some of those guys, they need to be out. They're not making votes. They're bought and paid for. They're taken care of. It's time. It's time to look at that. It's time to see that we're not we don't have the power. And what's sad is we're 200 million strong. Again, to the fact of a couple hundred people. And I'm not saying let's get out and fight it, but you can fight it with your votes. There's a lot of ways to get to, fighting for your freedom before you have to get out guns or get out, weaponry and just start, trying to, throw some lead. We can get out and vote. We can, on the congressional level, you can have a third party. You can run a strong third party. And but to do that, you can't just show up one day and say, I'm going to run for Congress. You have to, you have to build an infrastructure. Like what always has boggled my mind is that the Republican or the conservative party because they want to keep government small, or they wanna keep things, to their level, they don't organize. They don't have a bureaucracy. And unfortunately, because the Democrats don't care about anybody, they're gonna take all the money they want. They're gonna organize it 100%. They're gonna use every ounce of technology and what else not to send out the message that this is what they want you to say. This is this is how they're going to, this is how they're gonna push the message, and they want you to push that message for them. And you do it freely because you get a they send you an email every day, or they send you talking points, or they're on your news channel telling you what to say, and they're teaching you, and so they're like the best group of evangelists. They're probably better than the Mormons at getting their message out and getting you indoctrinated to teach the message to other people. I mean, I it's been 15, 17 years. I met up with a lady at a just a public, talk like a pirate day or something like that, food truck rally. And she's out there, asking me this, and they're talking about when AIG was bought by by the government, or bailed out by the government, and then the government, which was part of the going down of the of our country, part of starting bad precedents that she's like, oh, I don't, as a country, I don't want to buy an insurance company because Bush bailed out AIG. And I'm like, but you do want nationalized health care, right? Well, yeah, that would be great. That would help. Then we would have the country to bring down costs. No, that doesn't. That's not what happens. What happens is that when the country is the only name or only person who writes the checks, they decide the prices, and people decide that that price isn't worthwhile. Why do you think there has been a shortage of penicillin? Why do you think that is? Because they put a cap on how much they can charge for penicillin. Whether whether the price has gone up, whether, logistics have gone up, whether anything like that. Well, if it's not worth making because the price is so low, then you won't. That's the reason I don't wanna run a food truck again. I don't honestly want to work that hard in the restaurant industry, because selling a 900 a $90 or $9 burger, how many do I have to sell to make $90,000 a year? Well, I gotta sell a heck more a ton more than 10,000 of them, because I got all these costs on top of just paying me money. So you think about, you have to sell 9, 10, 15, and then you look at the way that the food industry is anymore, and you wonder, "Oh, that's why Taco Bell now charges $12." My meal at Taco Bell went from $12 to 22. Me and my wife used to be able to eat at Taco Bell, just a quick snack, just couple tacos, couple burrito, just get full, not buy anything crazy, 12, $15. It was like $27 the other night, and I got 2 things, and one of them was a Taco Supreme, which used to be 79 cents. I mean, that's a long time ago, but used to be 79 cents. So, you know, and that's the truth. That's economics. If something's not worth making, nobody's gonna make it for the good, or not very many people will make it for the good. And so if not very many companies are making it for the good of the people because they just love the people, and that, $50, $100, penicillin that you can get, they're just taking a loss on it. Well, there aren't that many companies that can take the loss on it, and unless the government is going to mandate companies that sell drugs to make every kind of drug or that kind of drug, then they're not making it. And that's going to happen far beyond just the penicillin. That's going to happen in all kinds of drugs. And being one of the leaders of making of producing drugs in the world, we're going to, as a country, lose that. We're going to lose that status. And then where are we going to get our drugs from? They got to come from somewhere. Well, where are they going to get them from? China or from wherever? And then we're going to be in this situation where we tell China that they sent us an epidemic, and they say, no, we're pissed off that you keep telling people that it's a Chinese virus, and they're going to stop sending us the antidote. And that's that. And that's controlling the power. That's what we're seeing here. That's what I'm saying is that if you don't see that it's all about power, it's not about money. Money, nobody cares about money. Money can be power, and making money can give you a level of control over your finances, which is power. But no one, no one cares about the actual making money for stuff. If you're, if you, and that's what silly is the generations coming up. They make money for stuff. I want to buy this car. I want to get this house. I want to, but it's not about, making a lot of money isn't about making a lot of money. It's about having the power to control your future, control your destiny. It's about having the money to live a fulfilled life, to feel like you're fulfilled, like you're successful. It's also about having the ability to pay the bills and be secure. And that's it. Once your security is fulfilled, the rest of the money is for power, is to control, is to be able to you know, keep on going. And some people use that power for good. I'm not saying that, if you make a ton of money and you start a company so that people have jobs, that power is a bad thing. Power is not always a bad thing. It can, it can be a good thing. It can help people. But governmental power never been a good thing. Ever. And that's even what the founding fathers said. George Washington, they fought in the Continental Congress about creating a Congress and a king or a president or whatever. And they fought about it because they were just leaving King George, who had most of the power at the time, to be able to decide things and stuff like that. He wasn't just a figurehead yet. And while being able to decide those things, he was being kind of a tyrant. He was not allowing us any kind of representation for to pay, to figure out what our taxes would be and stuff like that. And so they even had the argument that why would we want to give up a tyrant 3,000 miles away for 300 tyrants 2 miles away? And the answer is you wouldn't. But we have now, because there is no time frame on how long you can be a senator or a congressperson or a House of Representatives. So Congress kind of takes over, is the Senate and the House of Representatives. And so there's no time limit. So once you get in, your time limit is as long as you can keep your name recognition high enough so that people continue to vote for you. As long as you keep yourself out of the news as one of those guys, then most likely you'll get voted for again as the incumbent. And so you continue to use your power. But you use your power sparingly, and only when it either doesn't show you in a bad light, or when you get to do it without any recognition at all. Because if you do it with recognition, one side is going to be upset with you. Now, if you live in a place that is strongly to one side or another, then obviously you can do more to whichever side that is. You can kind of pander to the larger constituency. But that's what's happened, is on the Republican side, a lot of people have started to pander to the larger constituency, which is now Democrat. And so you're seeing that. And maybe there's more of those people out there. And maybe that's the way the people want this country to go. I obviously am not one of those people that wants the country to go that way, because I can see, you can see it in other countries how it doesn't help. If we just took regulations off of things like farming, if we took the regulations off of farming and we allowed the farmers to start setting prices that actually made sense, food costs would go through the roof, which is fine. If you also take the regulations off of workers and like wages and things of that nature. So if farmers could pay a lower wage to high school kids, because they're high school kids, they don't need a living wage. They need some money to, get their car, gas, whatever. And they were allowed to pay a lower wage for kids, or for whoever's working, in a menial job, then they would be able to recycle their workforce through. They're going to teach good habits. I mean, it's honestly, throwing hay teaches you a hard day's work. And so, we're going to train up a group of people who at least have seen a hard day's work. Right now, we're training up a group of people who go to college without ever having had a job. And so when they get out of college, they think that they're owed something. And honestly, I can't say that I was a full ton different, but I can say that I at least knew what a hard day's work was. I knew that I needed a job. I needed the money coming in to be able to pay the bills and things of that nature. And I wasn't going to be given anything. Yes, they had told me in the interviews for the college that, you can make $100,000 as an executive chef, and they're not lying 100%, but they're not everybody's making hundreds of thousands of dollars as an executive chef, and not everybody's making hundreds of thousands. No, not everybody's a celebrity chef. Not everybody's getting on the Food Network. A couple hundred chefs at most get on the Food Network every year. And so it's not that they're really lying, but they are telling kids who have no way to know any different. They're selling them a bill of goods that probably won't happen. And so we're doing that a lot of times. And I came out of college, and then at that time minimum wage was like, I don't know, 650 or 675 or something like that. And I think they gave me 750 for my internship. And they had offered me 11, and they said, "Oh, the company standard is just 750." And so I was like, "All right, for 4 months I can do 750, but I need to get to the, 11, $12 mark so that I can get an apartment, things of that nature." So when I got out of the externship, they gave me 850, and that wasn't a living wage, but I wasn't working a menial job. I was actually running the banquet section of the Marriott in Dayton, and doing other, basically managing certain things, certain aspects. And I'm getting a paid starter base salary, and I understood that I would have to take some lumps, but I wasn't, again, I wasn't asking for a chef's salary. I was just asking for enough that, my car didn't have to run on water and oil and gasoline at the same time. That I didn't have to have a blown head gasket to get to work every day. So, I understand that, starting out is rough, and you don't want to start out that way, but, how many thousand, to be a great whatever you're going to be, you've got to put in the thousands of hours to become the expert. And that's the difference between, the expert and the guy that just learned it. I piled thousands and thousands of 6-ounce pasta bags into a cooler for a year. I cut thousands of pounds of sausage into little rounds for a year or two, getting things ready, prep, cutting onions, cutting potatoes, I talk about, the base of my cooking started in a kitchen where I made 25 gallons of French onion soup almost every week. And we made 12 pans of full hotel pans of mac and cheese, every other day. And so, or I was, when I was a baking assistant, we made, you know, 90 dozen cookies, at Duquesne University. And we made 8 pans, up to 12 pans of Rice Krispie treats that were going to be cut and individually packaged, as 3 dozen per pan for the same university. And so, you know, it it's all about, the volume and what you do. And so when you get out of college, right now, if you have no work ethic, then you're going to come in and say, well, I have a degree. Well, at this point in life, everyone that is over 40 has some kind of degree. Anyone coming out of college, anyone at 27 years old has come out of college and has a degree. You're not any better than anybody else. And yet they've told you with the school system that you gotta go to college to get better than everybody else. But you're not going to college to be better than everybody else. You're going to college to be as good as anybody else. You haven't differentiated yourself from anybody else. You didn't, and so now you've got to go, 2 more years to get your master's, or a year to get your master's, and another year to get your doctorate to be anything. I mean, my boss wanted, or my wife wanted to whoops. My wife wanted to, get work in the mental health field, and because a lot of people go into psychology and get a psychology degree, because not that it's not hard, but it's almost a medical style degree without having to go into the medical field. You do some physiology or anatomy and stuff like that, but you don't have to do the full on doctor stuff. But to get anything in that degree that's not entry level, you either have to go to HR, which they're going to want you to either recruit, or you're going to talk, because you have a knowledge of how people react to people, um at least a base knowledge. And so they're going to want you to go into something like that. But if you don't have a full degree, like if you don't have a master's or a doctorate, you're you're not going to you're not going to work in the psychology field. You might get into some kind of like social working assistant or something like that, but y- that's it. You're not your degree isn't any better than anybody else's. And so I think, just it's just the sad crux of it anymore is that they keep telling you this. And what's even sadder is that we've got kids coming out of college with a home mortgage, 200,000 dollars in just in bills, like already set. And how are you going to buy a house when you already have a house that you have to pay that called your education? That's the biggest killer of the American dream right now, is that you just came out of college not knowing even what you want to do with your life. I mean, who at 50, at 18, other than people who go into the military, which have no choice because they've gone into the military and they have to at least put in their first 2 years. But other than those people who have a career path written out for them, know what they want to do with their life. And you're going to go and spend $100,000 at least to get an education on something that you may not like. And so you're going to switch, and then you're not going to like, you may not like that. And so you get into 3 different majors, which then costs you more money, and you come out of it still without any actual work experience, unless you're smart enough to get a job. But the way that they run the the academics in a lot of these colleges, you don't have time to get a job on the side. I mean, my wife is a superhuman because she worked a full-time, full-on job while helping support, my dreams in the food truck, and going to school full time to get her bachelor's degree in psychology. And so, like, most people don't have that. And so you don't you either can't get it. I mean, 12 hours a day, she was sleeping in her car. How much do you want it? Sometimes that's what differentiates you from the other person. It's not your education or that, it's who you know and how much you want it. And if you don't want it enough to sleep in your car or do, you know, then it's not for you. You can just go find another job. Don't spend the money because you literally spent, like, I can't emphasize this enough. You literally spent a house payment or a house amount of money on your education. And she was smart. She went to community college and transferred to a little bit bigger college to get her bachelor's, a better known college to get her bachelor's, and did it the right way. But we still have bills. We still have student loans. And, you know, and honestly, it's a car's worth of student loans. It's not, I mean, it's kind of silly to think of it that way, but at the same time, it, it's how you have to think about it. I could own a car or I could have I could have an education. And the education should be enough that that you could have a car and an education. But at this point, the way that the amount of money that you're having to pay on your education, if you get a job in your field, you're lucky. If if you weren't 18 and decided to go into something like if you weren't going into film studies or you weren't going into, you know, the studies of whatever culture. I mean, how many jobs in the world actually study certain ethnic cultures? I, I mean, it's a great study. It's great to know all that you can about an ethnic study, but how often do those jobs come open? I mean, at certain colleges and certain, you know, museums. So you better be sleep in your car excited about this kind of stuff and and push into it like that because otherwise you're not you know you're not going to be the best at it, and you're not going to value it enough to be that good enough to get a job. And you're also not gonna wanna take the job that may not be the top end job. Maybe you've gotta, sweep the floors at the place, or you've gotta, you're the accepting manager where you have to accept all of the shipments and stuff, and you're waiting on your shot to be the person who actually curates a museum or something, or gets to study, the actual, anthropology. It's just I don't know. So, just while I'm talking here, checking a few things to try to get into better news and, obviously didn't find it. President Joe Biden yesterday proposed, and I think this is 2 days old. So, yeah, this is, yesterday's yesterday. Proposed a set of changes to the US Supreme Court, including creating an enforceable code of conduct and setting term limits for justices. A departure from the current lifetime tenure, capping each justice's term to 18 years, which could reduce the chances of a single president shaping the country's highest. And this is it. That's what it is. they don't want a president to have that much power. And so a president who has no brain left is going, and this is why we have three branches. This is why we have the three branches of Congress, or of Congress, the judicial and the executive. And then this is what's silly about it is I was listening to ABC, and the reporter on ABC didn't, I got a gnat flying around here. And the reporter from ABC goes, "Well, we're trying to do our best to you know, vet these guys, so that what their legislation is going to be." Well, he's the president. He's not legislating anything. What? Read your government book. Like, read the internet. He's a part of the executive branch. He's only there to give advice to Congress about how that they can form and put laws into place so that he can execute those laws. And then once he executes that law, the judicial system adjudicates that law. They review the laws, and they put forth the power of the law. And so he executes the law. He doesn't legislate. He doesn't create the laws. He'll sign, he's got a check and balance so that he can sign that law in, so that there's no crazy laws that the legislative branch doesn't go and say, well, the president is just a figurehead, create a law that makes the president a figurehead. He can veto that. Or he can do, like, he has the power to pocket veto, which is a precedented law that the president kind of created, as, he can put it in his desk drawer and let it expire. Now, Congress has ways of overriding that with, supermajorities and things of that nature, but so instead of and that's part of the Supreme Court's checks and balances, is that as a judge, you're not supposed to be on a side. You're not supposed to have to look over your shoulder. You're not supposed to have to play to a group of people. This is supposed to be your best thoughts. The way that your ethical standing is what is supposed to be what comes out. You're not supposed to, play to the right or the left, or play to this minority or that to get reelected. When we put judges on election stands, that's when we see that they're going to adjudicate certain styles. That's when you're going to see stuff like New York, where, well, we're definitely, everybody wants, legal marijuana. So we're not going to, we're not going to, prosecute people with, on marijuana charges. Well, the federal government still says that marijuana is illegal. Your state and state Supreme Court, or your state executive branch, has decided that they're not going to prosecute. So if the national government came in with a law group, a executive police, like the FBI, and wanted to start executing the law of the country on people and federally taking people into custody and prosecuting them, then they could. And there's not one thing the state could do because their law is against the Constitution or against the law of the land. And in all honesty, if someone came to the federal government and said, "Well, my state, it's legal," no, it's not. That's not constitutional. So now we want to cap these people at 18 years, which is a long time. And honestly, probably most of these judges don't preside over the courts for more than for much more than that. Honestly, uh, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I think she was in the court for 22 years or something like that. Um, and some of those, but she was a left-leaning judge, you know. Not that I'm saying that they, they stay longer or whatever, but also, I mean, you've got judges that have had mental issues and stuff like that. And I understand if we're doing it for that reason, but you know, the reason is because we don't want a president shaping the country's highest court forever. But they can't. Like Biden's been a president, he, you know, had every chance, if one of the judges died, he could have gotten a judge in there. Or one of the judges retires. I mean, the judges they do retire. So I don't know. It's like I said, it's all about power. And this wasn't any happier. And the other article I've got about a kid stabbing, two people to death and injuring 11 is not any happier than that. Seems like I sent myself something happy. Let's see. This is the story we're going to end on. For the Paris Olympics, which we haven't talked about a whole lot. The opening ceremony was woo, especially in if you're a Christian. It was pretty blatant that they were not excited about you. But freedom of speech be freedom of speech, right? Especially in France. Viva la France. Anyhow, so this is a story from the Paris Olympics. I thought it was heartwarming and uplifting. There was a Australian field hockey player, Matthew Dawson. He actually broke his finger about 3-4 weeks ago before the Olympics, and it was pretty bad. It was gonna be something, and like so bad that when they actually untaped it and showed it to him at in the locker room, he passed out. Like he just fell over. So I mean, this is a field hockey player. This is like a guy that runs around with a stick, getting beaten by other sticks without barely any pads on. Um, and it's not quite rugby, but not far off. So they, yeah, they, so they gave him the options. The options were that it's pretty bad. We could amputate it, or it looks like we have a shot at fixing it, keeping your finger. The problem is with this is that you're going to have like 6 months to a year of rehab. Still not guaranteed that it's going to work all the way. But we're fairly certain that we can save your fingertip. And the guy said, "What's the other option?" And he's like, "6 months puts me way beyond the Olympics." And as a field hockey player, there isn't much that's going to get me a chance beyond, like there's not much bigger stage than the Olympics for field hockey. There isn't some like, yes, there's a world championship or whatever. I mean, they have those kind of tournaments and stuff. I'm sure, but I'm sure that those tournaments don't pay ton. I mean, they're not paying soccer money or they're not paying NFL money or NBA money or baseball money or any kind of money, golf money or tennis money or anything like that. They may be paying better than bowling money, but probably not any more than that. But so, dude said, What's the other option?" And they said amputation. He goes, "How long is the recovery for that?" And the doctor said, "Well, if we amputate your finger, like 10 days, and we could have you playing again." He said, "Sign me up." So instead of keeping his finger, he decided to go with amputation. And his quote is, "With all the information I had to make the decision in a pretty short period of time, I still decided to take it, and I can still live a pretty good functioning life with just a little less finger to worry about." So when Dawson's teammates learned about his decision, they were stunned, but they weren't surprised. Um, the captain of the team said, "When you've spent a lifetime of choice and sacrifice to come and compete at the highest level, I think for him it was an easy decision." The coach said, "I'm not sure I would have done it, but he's done it so great." It's literally his ring finger, and it's literally just the tip. As much fun and prodding as you can say about that, it was just the tip. And basically anything after the knuckle is gone, but the knuckle is still there, and he's competing in the Olympics. And he's right. You only live this life once, and he can still have a huge, super good quality of life without a tip of his finger. It's not like he lost a leg or a hand or an eyeball or something like that. Or he's got concussion issues or anything like that, which they don't say he does. He could, most likely with playing field hockey, he does, but so. And he said, "If taking the top of my finger was the price I had to pay, that was what I would do." So, feel good story. Man sacrifices all his finger, or actually just the tip of his finger, to make it to the Olympics. And with that, you know, I haven't seen what the field hockey has is up to yet. Um, so I just I think that we all need to root a little bit for the man with a little less finger. Be on the Australian field hockey group. Be excited for them and root for the Australian guy with a little less finger. So again, with that being said, you know, another shameless plug, and then we're out. Get on our Facebook page. Get on our Facebook page. Get in the comments here. Get over to Spreaker and help us out with a little financial help. $2 a month gets you a couple extra podcasts a month. Supports us in our fight to get people a brain, to get people some education. to get people thinking a little bit about, Australia lost yesterday in the field hockey. But your $2 helps to get, the knowledge of, people taking their fingertip off to get a little bit, get a little farther ahead in life. So just, get on, support us. Every little bit helps. If you can't help financially, um, get on and just like us, subscribe, share us to your page. If you like us, hopefully your friends will like us. Hopefully you're not just a closet guy, closet conservative in your group, or your closet constitutionalist, or whatever you are that you made you come and like us. Hopefully you're not the only one. If you are, send us an email. We'll be friends. And you can send those emails if there's a subject that we haven't hit or we've missed, or just a subject you want us to hit. Coming up soon, we're going to have our conspiracy theory podcast. And with that, send us your conspiracy theories, whyimangrypodcast@gmail.com. Shoot them. They come straight to me. I'll vet through them, see what I can do, get them on our podcast. And, we'll be talking about your news. So remember to follow, like, and share the Why I'm Angry podcast across all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast. The Why I'm Angry podcast ends now.